Could you be glad? Glad you're alive today? Glad you could open your eyes, see, and breathe today? Could hear, taste, eat well today? Could stretch your limbs, move your body? Take in the softness of the clouds, the greenness of the trees, a summer breeze, or blueness of the sky. Glad you could find some joy today, find some ease. Feel loved and loving. Beyond glad you could be present to this day, to this life, to the world around you, to the whole world within you. Welcome to the latest Floating Poetry broadcast, and thank you for leaning in, and many of you leaning in again and often. Now to show 134 in my ongoing weekly series, coming to you live from the well-favored coast of Rhode Island. This is your poet and poetorialist Colin Goedecke, a voice for living our days more fully, more alively, more poetically. In broadcast 133, we contemplated taking better, greater care of ourselves, radical self-care, physically to emotionally to socially, tending and attending, resting and replenishing, nourishing and nurturing, daily, deeply. Also heightening our awareness, steering clear of dangers local and larger, sharpening our sixth senses, and beyond our own outer and inner selves, taking care of others, showing kindness in abundance, caring more for the well-being of our natural world. This week, looking at our fortunes, of varied kinds, especially favored kinds, vital kinds, and at our good luck, Kismet, karma, at life's serendipities, prosperities, gifts, and gracings, from the natural to the man-made, the invited to the unexpected, the shared and the deeply appreciated, especially those beyond the material. So, let's muse together through the cultural commentary, poetry, and inquiry I've gathered for us, and see what speaks strongly or subtly or in some way to you. A poem for an uncle on his 75th birthday. He's now at 89. 75 years ago. 75 years ago, you slipped out of the womb and into the world with a name and numberless possibilities to be a president or pianist, fall in love, make your fortune, find happiness. 75 years and quite a lifetime of work and play, children and chance, wine and romance later. You've seen and shown us how much someone can grow in the world and bring to it, and how love and fortune and happiness can be found and be grandest in the smallest of moments, and in that remarkable movement a body and soul makes, yours has made, from birth to this present radiant moment of life on earth. How Good Fortune Surprises Us by Jackson Wheeler. I was hauling freight out of the Carolinas up to the Cumberland Plateau when, in Tennessee, I saw from the freeway at 2 a.m. a house ablaze. Water from the fire hoses arced into luminescent rainbows. The only sound, the dull roar of my truck passing, I found myself strangely happy. It was misfortune on that cold night falling on someone's house, but not mine, not mine. Thank you, Jackson Wheeler. The Last Slave by Marilyn Nelson. For Samuel Freeman, emancipated November 8, 1820. You never could tell. People disappeared suddenly in the old days, left rumors and big black gaping holes in family trees, like the ones our ancestors must have left when fate ripped them out of the world they knew. You might have been sold, or you'd run away from despair and gotten lost in the unknown. Was there a difference? Might as well be dead. What happened to the loved ones left behind holding dripping handfuls of might have been was simply fate. They just went on living. They just survived, or didn't. Such is fate. Bought as a child by Captain Joseph Noyes, I served him with respect until he died, and I realized that my fate had changed. For 3 generations my family had lived with the Noyes as one household, divided by an inherited curse that made some Noyes and some property. This was the only family I knew. My wife was born and raised in a Noyes home. Dr. Noyes delivered our 2 babies. When I decided to claim my freedom, 5 Noyes testified on my behalf. I was the last slave, because freedom means you have to earn wages and make them stretch from payday to payday for rent, food, clothes, the doctor when, not if, someone gets sick. It doesn't change the way the brutes see you, but it does change the way you see yourself, and that makes all the difference. I'd been free 6 years when I was viciously attacked for acting proud while black. If I'd fought back, I'd probably be dead now. William Noyes hired a lawyer who sent the brute to jail because our family's fates are intertwined. I'm 65 now. Who could have foreseen that I'd be sitting out here on my porch while red-throat whistlers and black-capped dickie-dees celebrate and the cherry petals snow? No more than 30 years ago, who could have foreseen this as my possible fate? A free, white-bearded black man with his wife sunning together beside their front door, looking down their forsythia-lined path, their son out back hammering a horseshoe in the blacksmith shop, their daughter humming tunelessly in the kitchen, their grandsons swearing they'll finish chores before dinner, their quiet granddaughter dreaming futures. Beautiful. Thank you. Marilyn Nelson, The Last Slave. Happiness by Jane Kenyon. There's just no accounting for happiness, or the way it turns up like a prodigal who comes back to the dust at your feet, having squandered a fortune far away. And how can you not forgive? You make a feast in honor of what was lost, and take from its place the finest garment, which you saved for an occasion you could not imagine. And you weep night and day to know that you were not abandoned, that happiness saved its most extreme form for you alone. No, happiness is the uncle you never knew about, who flies a single-engine plane onto the grassy landing strip, hitchhikes into town, and inquires at every door until he finds you asleep mid-afternoon, as you so often are during the unmerciful hours of your despair. It comes to the monk in his cell. It comes to the woman sweeping the street with a birch broom, to the child whose mother has passed out from drink. It comes to the lover, to the dog chewing a sock, to the pusher, to the basket maker, and to the clerk stacking cans of carrots in the night. It even comes to the boulder in the perpetual shade of pine barrens, to rain falling on the open sea, to the wine glass, weary of holding wine. Thank you, Jane Kenyon. Love that poem. I've read it on other occasions. Just love that. Maybe you do too. From Abraham Hicks. You are the owner of all that you perceive, but you can't perceive apart from your vibration. Feel your way, little by little, into a greater sense of abundance by looking for the treasures that the universe is offering you on a day-to-day basis. Well, let me float some questions early in here about our fortunes, your fortunes, and all things fortunate. What comes first to thought or mental image when you think of fortune, especially of good fortune, being fortunate? What fortunes in your life, of your life, do you feel the most deeply about? Were they physical, emotional, relational, maybe professional or financial, or something other? How did they alter, or have they altered you inside, your being? And on the flip side, how was a seeming misfortune you experienced a blessing in disguise, a later revealed opportunity or godsend? What's your belief about luck? About karma? About serendipity? And how has it ever shown up, especially if very surprisingly? In the great scheme of things, regardless of whether others, like the multimillionaires and billionaires, and perhaps there's some trillionaires out there, seem to have immensely, sometimes outrageously, more of it, is it possible your own quality of life is actually incredibly abundant and rich when you see or realize how much of the world subsists on so little or next to nothing? What do you treasure most in each day? Such as good health or happiness, being loved, being seen or heard, being at peace? And is there any one something, an object you possess that you treasure or did seriously value, and why? Maybe a keepsake or an heirloom, a talisman, good luck charm. What is it, and where do you keep it? How have you gone about sharing your good fortune with others along the way? Or they and theirs with you? Do you see nature, the living world, as a precious gift, worth caring for, protecting, communing with? What will our fortunes be as a world, society? So many of us, I believe billions of people as we speak, are wondering right now about that. What would you like them to be? Or if not the globe, if that's too large, whatever country you belong to, and if that's too large, whatever city or town or province, state you belong to. Do you believe we together have the power to shift them in a wise and healthy direction, a fortunate direction? Well, questions, those are my questions for now, for you. Might be some others as we go along. There's the precious beauty nature gives us everywhere in the world, freely and purely, often movingly. This was an experience of mine at this year's autumnal equinox. It was after the rain. After all the rain monsooning through the day, cascading through the leaves of the still green with summer trees, that gave way late afternoon to reappearing sun, rain-cooled air, returning birds and their flying songs, that inspired slow driving past sturdy New England houses struck white with slanting first fall light, out to the ocean waves, and being surprised there, walking barefoot by the sea, by the heavens revealing their higher splendors in luminous, voluminous clouds of spun gold and rose, flaming orange, saffron. Clouds from creation myths, dreams, other worlds. And below them, on the horizon, a great rainbow rising from the sea invisible and untouchable colors, prisming into the sky, into the lustrous clouds, into the eyes and spirits of all of us, beholding with wordless wonder this rare fanfare for the equinox and the unfolding on earth of autumn. It was after the rain. Here's a piece from my experiential theater on paper called Behind the Curtain, and characters that came to life in it, in images and story poems, a luminous cast of characters. Here were the treasure seekers, who search together for lost, buried, and sunken treasure, whose instincts lead them to the hollows of trees, the bottoms of wells, to long-locked trunks tucked away in forgotten corners of distant kingdoms, to the mouths of ancient caves, the hearts of dark jungles, where treasures to them, if not to others, they are sure are to be found, and between them, gladly shared. Actually, somehow, I was about to tell you, and I will, about the treasure of the Sierra Madre, but there was another film with Sean Connery and Michael Caine, the man who would be king. Look that one up. I don't know if you haven't seen it. It has to do with these fellas who become fortune hunters and are perceived as kings in this place. They show up, these two white men. Really, no such men had ever been seen. And they ultimately decide they're going to make off with a lot of the treasure of the people. Well, it doesn't go well for them, but it's an interesting story. And maybe similarly, this was much earlier, is The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. It was a 1925 book, but I'm thinking of the film, wonderful film, real classic, American Western film set in the West, written and directed by John Huston. And from Wikipedia, they say it follows two downtrodden men, played by Humphrey Bogart and Tim Holt, who joined forces with a grizzled old prospector, Walter Huston, the director's father, in searching for gold in Mexico. It was a film that was selected for preservation in the U.S. National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being, quote, culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. And I would say it is, and there's a lot to say about our times, too, actually, metaphorically. And RogerEbert.com, it's a story in the Joseph Conrad tradition, using adventure not as an end in itself, but as a test of its characters. It involves moral disagreements between a wise old man and a paranoid middle-aged man, and a young man forced to choose sides. It tells the story with gusto, and Huston's love of male camaraderie occasionally breaks into laughter, some funny, some bitterly ironic. It happens on a sun-blasted high chaparral landscape, utterly desolate, except for the three gold prospectors, although gangs of bandits and villages of Indians materialize when required. At the end, it has Bogart in a delirious, mad scene that falls somewhere between King Lear and, quote, greed. Treasure of the Sierra Madre. Well, you might enjoy it. You might appreciate it sometime. I was musing along also as I gathered things on the fortunateness of having dearly loved figures filling in our lives, and certainly in mine, many now departed, including my father-in-law for 20 plus years, 25 years almost. My father-in-love, as I called him, best of friends, and took his ashes back to his home country in Italy, to his town, and made my own ceremonies around that. And this is the poem I wrote there. This was after his passing, and taking care of the ashes, or some of the ashes. All of the people in the family had some, and I had some. So this is for Leonardo. Out of the ashes. The ones fired from your bones, the ones reduced to some elemental, irreducible residue of you, the ones returning to your native land, Trojan land, along the Appian Way, vicino a Foggia, as you like to say, that I chose to give to the roots of the olive tree, standing and fruiting so nobly, so anciently in the mezzogiorno earth of the Massaria, in one silver-green grove of Puglia, so you might join the ripeness of new harvests. that I cast unto the upwelling currents of winter's sea, moving and bluing so southernly, off the storied shores of Greeks and Etruscans, Ottomans and Illyrians, to spread your last traces, your stardust, far and wide, feeling in taking license with letting loose my share of your ashes, that out of them, in these ways, nature could be blessed longer with your essence. I miss that man greatly. Well, thinking of figures and, dear listeners, of the glowing times you've had with friends that still glow inside you, whether they're past or present. And this was some years back on the Great South Bay on Jones Beach Island, raking for clams. Sunset ripples. Sunset ripples out from the horizon where a cloud curtain has gone up. It ripples at a soft right angle across the salted water, encircles our wrists, our waiting ankles like beaten gold bracelets, as we zenly reach down together through the low, low tide for clams lying cool and quiet in the great South Bay. The soon unshelled center of a serendipitous Saturday feast of good men, women, wine, and willing mollusks. And speaking of fathers, just a moment ago, and the precious touchstones they represent for many, the best parts of their legacies. This is What My Father Left Behind by Chris Foran, Forhan, from his book of poetry, Black Leapt In. Jam jar of cigarette ends and ashes on his workbench, hammer he nailed our address to a stump with, balsa wood steamship half finished. Is that him, waving from the stern? Well, good luck to him. Slur of sunlight filling the backyard, August's high wattage, white blossoming. It's a curve, it comes back. My mother in a patio chair, leaning forward, squinting, threading her needle again. Her eye lifts to the roof, to my brother, who stands and jerks his arm upward. He might be insulting the sky, but he's only letting go a bit of green, a molded plastic soldier tied to a parachute, thin as a bread bag. It rises, it arcs against the blue. Good luck to it. My sister and I below, heads tilted back as we stand in the grass. Good luck to all of us, still here, still in love with it. Thank you, Chris Foran. And what, dear listeners, of the gift of true love, what it gives us, even after it leaves, if it does. This is Depth Finder. Going down like a naked pearl diver in a greater breath into jade and sapphire waters, into an undersea of living treasures of the body, heart, soul, showed me how much more deeply I could go inside another, inside myself, how much more deeply I could dive, love, and be loved. I feel we must, each and all, ever be inviting the best things in to our days, speaking and dreaming them in, day and night. Fields of dreams. Dreams of daily beauty. Dreams of deep love. Dreams of ease of way, of heart, of home. Dreams of prosperity. Dreams of endless liberty. May they all be so. And the great writer, José Luis Borges. All that happens to us, including our humiliations, our misfortunes, our embarrassments, all is given to us as raw material, as clay, so that we may shape our art. My friends, let me say this in a poem. Speaking of life's raw materials, you can bloom everywhere you're planted. night and day, in sun and moonlight, heart light, your light. Blossom forth your color, beauty, petal softness of form and face into the eyes and lives of others, partners, friends, fellow flowerers, all those you love, all those who have the great good fortune to enter your ever-moving, ever-blooming garden. You can bloom. Yes, you can. How to make your own luck. This is from Jocelyn Glee, Glei, her book and her team at Behance 99U. Maximize your potential, grow your expertise, take bold risks, and build an incredible career. In the 20th century, if the 20th century career was a ladder that we climb from one predictable rung to the next, the 21st century career is more like a broad rock face that we are all free climbing. There's no defined route, and we must use our own ingenuity, training, and strength to rise to the top. We must make our own luck. Lucky people take advantage of chance occurrences that come their way. Instead of going through life on cruise control, they pay attention to what's happening around them and, therefore, are able to extract greater value from each situation. They're also open to novel opportunities and willing to try things outside their usual experiences. They're more inclined to pick up a book on an unfamiliar subject, to travel to less familiar destinations, and to interact with people who are different than themselves. Where are you on the spectrum? Here's British philosopher Alan Watts on the yin-yang of fortune and misfortune, the art of learning not to think in terms of gain and loss. This is from his book, Eastern Wisdom, Modern Life, Collected Talks, 1960 to 69. The whole process of nature is an integrated process of immense complexity, and it's really impossible to tell whether anything that happens in it is good or bad. So he has this little bit of a story in his book. Once upon a time, there was a Chinese farmer whose horse ran away. That evening, all of his neighbors came around to commiserate. They said, "We're so sorry to hear your horse has run away. This is most unfortunate." The farmer said, "Maybe." The next day, the horse came back bringing 7 wild horses with it. And in the evening, everybody came back and said, "Oh, isn't that lucky? What a great turn of events. You now have 8 horses." The farmer again said, "Maybe." The following day, his son tried to break one of the horses, and while riding it, he was thrown and broke his leg. The neighbors then said, "Oh dear, that's too bad." And the farmer responded, "Maybe." The next day, the conscription officers came around to conscript people into the army, and they rejected his son because he had a broken leg. Again, all the neighbors came around and said, "Isn't that great?" Again, he said, "Maybe." He steadfastly refrained from thinking of things in terms of gain or loss, advantage or disadvantage, because one never knows. In fact, we never really know whether an event is fortune or misfortune. We only know our ever-changing reactions to ever-changing events. Thank you, Alan Watts. Then we have the great ancient Stoic Marcus Aurelius. Can what happened to you stop you from being fair, high-minded, moderate, conscientious, unhasty, honest, moral, self-reliant, and so on? From possessing all the qualities that, when present, enable a man's nature to be fulfilled? So then, whenever something happens that might cause you distress, remember to rely on this principle. This is not bad luck, but bearing it valiantly is good luck. Well, how does that resonate with you? And how often are you sharing your good fortune with those less fortunate, or others, but especially those less fortunate, being generous, not just of pocket, but of spirit, of kindness, helping nourish the hungry in other ways? Well, the more of us doing it truly and thoughtfully, heartfully, the more nourished the world itself can become. Here's David Whyte's poem, Loaves and Fishes. This is not the age of information. This is not the age of information. Forget the news and the radio and the blurred screen. This is the time of loaves and fishes. people are hungry, and one good word is bread for 1,000. Loaves and fishes. Thank you, David White. Dan Chasson, Chasson. Poem is called To Dan Chasson Concerning Fortune. Far out in the gray waters there are storms. There are crews in trouble right now as I write this. As you read this letter or poem or whatever it is, they drown. Listen, Dan, the shoreline is no safe harbor either. Its sharp rocks rip even the stoutest hull apart like it's a wasp's nest, and the wasps swarm the shore. Forget the shore, Dan. Oh, and Dan, forget that big house inland. That house was built with envy. Not wood, not brick, not stone. It is hell also to be under the tall tree when the storm rolls in. Leaves fill the air and eddy everywhere. There is no shelter when the tower falls and the little city surrounding cries, eek! And they start unzipping body bags pronto. Oh, love is a yo-yo. When you're high, you're already feeling the pull of gravity. But when you're low, it's really magical how you climb up the way you fell. I've made my heart so calloused I can't be cheered. But you know, Dan, I'm never lonely. And that's something. In the winter, I don't shiver. I just sit there smiling. In the summer, I never smile. I play cards indoors. Apollo isn't always throwing darts, you know. He has a lyre, too, and he likes to throw lyre parties. It's sunny somewhere, Dan. The sun is shining somewhere. Thank you, Dan Chasson. It's one of mine. My pockets may be empty. My pockets may be empty, but my spirit is full of plenty, overspilling with beauty, my clover, cream, and honey, with gold and silver gleanings and other things more precious than money. The treasures of a man whose whole being is wealthy, flush of heart, rich in dreams, awash in desires and deep imaginings, abounding in passions brightly burning, graced daily with gifts of poetry, joy, discovery. As for these pockets, their literal filling, I patiently go about my life, gratefully go about my life, inviting, without insisting, their abundant coming. For now, the many rays of sunshine filling them is enough. Robert Pinsky has this poem, Samurai Song. Samurai Song. When I had no roof, I made audacity my roof. When I had no supper, my eyes dined. When I had no eyes, I listened. When I had no ears, I thought. When I had no thought, I waited. When I had no father, I made care my father. When I had no mother, I embraced order. When I had no friend, I made quiet my friend. When I had no enemy, I opposed my body. When I had no temple, I made my voice my temple. I have no priest, my tongue is my choir. When I have no means, fortune is my means. When I have nothing, death will be my fortune. Need is my tactic, detachment is my strategy. When I had no lover, I courted my sleep. Thank you. Robert Pinsky's Samurai Song from his collection Jersey Rain. Well, how fortunate those of us are who can gather with loved ones and feast at the holidays, like Thanksgiving here in the States tomorrow. And into that mix, I have this piece for you. What if you forget the turkey? However tender and moist, the golden skin supremely crisp, the stuffing and the gravy, however savory. Forget the mashed potatoes, the pumpkin pie, and all the wine. What if you simply remember why you gather around a table of kindred others to begin with? This day, or any day. Contemplate what fineness, fullness of heart you can bring to each table, each other, before you even arrive to sit there. What good stories and nourishing reveries, poetries you can spread out on, sing out to the table. How greatly it matters every day you're here, Every time you take time, make room to feast on your life, to toast your one and onlyness, and the lives and specialness of the others, dear and near or far, who make it all the more joyful, flavorful, worthwhile, while you're here on earth. Then, on with, savoring the rest and grateful tastes of it all. Even things can be lucky, even erotically so. And I was thinking of Jane Kenyon's poem, The Shirt. The shirt touches his neck and smooths over his back. It slides down his sides. It even goes down below his belt, down into his pants. Lucky shirt. Thank you, Jane Kenyon. My fatherly friend and mentor of one of others, after his recovery from his heart attack back in 2006, that good fortune he had of a second chance, of continuing to live, but also living to behold, was what I was thinking when I wrote this for him. Feeling, actually, more than thinking. I'm mostly feeling than thinking. Inside your treasure chest, for David Melnick and his heart. Among all the other baubles in your fabled treasure chest, behind the precious furniture of breathing and beating, lies the luminously ruby energy of life and love you possess that cannot be stopped or stolen, only interrupted. And as you look inside, maybe with the wonder of seeing again for the first time, may this truest of treasures bring you back, body and soul, to your rich and dazzling self. And speaking of the heart, on another tangent, the heart is a remarkable thing. It can become sick over many things, over loss of faith or fortune, death of a loved one, dreams deferred, disappointments or disbeliefs, seeing suffering. Then somehow, often miraculously heal and learn to reopen, sing, and feel joy again. Might we think, dear listeners, of wealth differently than our long-time conditioning, our over-orientation on money and material goods? This is Preserving Your Wealth. It's from September 2016. Sitting around Kitchell Pond, my Walden Pond. That was back down in New Jersey at that time. Preserving your wealth. The kind you'll be more well off preserving. Not your millions or summer houses, art collection, or four-wheeled horses, but your wealth of self, without which the rest is hardly, truly as meaningful, at least to me. Meaning a priceless sense of self, soul, a deep-seated heart, the immeasurable treasure of transcendently loving, a high net worth of emotional health, a whole portfolio of higher possibilities, real riches you can feel but can't calculate, inner assets to float you, see you through all life's crises, illnesses, losses, even the loss of people and things you hold dear, a spouse, a nest egg, a career. True wealth you can bank on, feel fortunate, ever thankful for, if or once you possess it. Billy Collins' poem Design, from his collection The Art of Drowning. I pour a coating of salt on the table and make a circle in it with my finger. This is the cycle of life, I say to no one. This is the wheel of fortune, the Arctic Circle. This is the ring of Kerry and the white rose of Tralee, I say to the ghosts of my family, the dead fathers, the aunt who drowned, my unborn brothers and sisters, my unborn children. This is the sun with its glittering spokes and the bitter moon. This is the absolute circle of geometry, I say to the crack in the wall, to the birds who cross the window. This is the wheel I just invented to roll through the rest of my life, I say, touching my finger to my tongue. Thank you, Billy Collins. Let's take a moment to blink. Blink. Just, you open your eyes. Just born. You're here, newly arrived, wildly, preciously alive. A bright body of energy, feeling, all possibility. A fresh canvas. Blink. You open your eyes. Just awake. You're still here, newly arrived, alive decades later. A bigger body of energy, feeling, possibility now. A wondrous work in progress. Blink. Each moment is your moment to enter, open to, be wildly alive in. Bring all your energy, feeling, possibility to the heart and art of here and nowness. Blink. So many simple gifts and graces for anyone, everyone, you, me, we, to ask for, open to in our days, yes. Receive. Give us this day. Give us this day our daily wind, to fill our sails, ruffle our curtains, caress our faces. Give us this day our daily sun, to light our way, warm our mornings, color our days ending. Give us this day our daily sea, to voyage on, gather our fish from, refresh our bodies in. This new day of simply living on the earth, of breathing in this earth and all its givings. Give us this day to openly, gladly receive these gifts. An opera house. This is from Amy Lowell's poem, beautiful poem, Towns in Color. Within the gold square of the proscenium arch, a curtain of orange velvet hangs in stiff folds, its tassels jarring slightly when someone crosses the stage behind. Gold carving edges the balconies, rims the boxes, runs up and down fluted pillars. Little knife stabs of gold shine out whenever a box door is opened. Gold clusters flash in soft explosions on the blue darkness, suck back to a point and disappear. Hoops of gold circle necks, wrists, fingers, pierce ears, poise on heads, and fly up above them in colored sparkles. Gold, gold. The opera house is a treasure box of gold. Gold in a broad smear across the orchestra pit. Gold of horns, trumpets, tubas. Gold, spun gold, twittering gold, snapping gold of harps. The conductor raises his baton. The brass blares out, crass, crude, parvenu, fat, powerful, golden. Rich as the fat clapping hands in the boxes, cymbals gigantic, coin-shaped, crash. The orange curtain parts and the prima donna steps forward. One note, a drop, transparent, iridescent, a gold bubble. It floats, floats, and bursts against the lips of a bank president in the grand tier. Thank you, Amy Lowell. An opera house from Towns in Color. Here's one of mine from the 4th of July in America here, in America 2022, spangled. Far beyond the stars on flags waving from white poles and draping the country's porches. The bright glimmer of the summer sun on the noonday sea. The glistening jewels of clustered pebbles, sea glass, and stones freshly washed and washed along the shore. The gleams in the eyes of the floating birds, and the children playing so freely, joyfully on the foot-soft sand. as we come now to the last few sharings for this show, Richard Dawkins on the science of why you are lucky to be alive. This is from his book, Unweaving the Rainbow. Science, Delusion, and the Appetite for Wonder. We are going to die, and that makes us the lucky ones. Most people are never going to die because they are never going to be born. The potential people who could have been here in my place, but who will in fact never see the light of day, outnumber the sand grains of Arabia. Certainly those unborn ghosts include greater poets than Keats, scientists greater than Newton. We know this because the set of possible people allowed by our DNA so massively exceeds the set of actual people. In the teeth of these stupefying odds, it is you and I, in our ordinariness, that are here. Well, among the most precious things in the world, perhaps the most precious, the most priceless, is you. So, how will you begin or continue to see and feel, bring to light far more of yourself, who you really, beautifully, and so one-of-a-kindly are? Cast off the cloaks of whatever you're not, or thought you had to be. Find and live the unlived, undiscovered parts of your life, the buried treasures of your body, mind, heart, waiting to be discovered and embraced, honored, and expressed. Pose big, beautiful questions to yourself, ones ready to reshape you just by courageous asking, honest pondering, starting from your soul. Begin new conversations, fresh and freeing conversations, with and without words, with the world around you, the people, the earth, and humanity around you, and those you've outworn or have worn you out. Kindle your deeper passions and compassions, from glowing embers to roaring bonfires. Reimagine how much more is possible, dreamable, where the world is your oyster, full of pearls. Revisit what is, in this here, this now, most natural, vital, joyful, what brings you alive. Maybe the music of Brahms or birds, the taste of true love, friendship, sunlight. Because another future may be calling for you to enter, for you to begin. The poet Naomi Shihab Nye, who I've shared on other programs, her work, has said, poetry calls us to pause. There is so much we overlook, while the abundance around us continues to shimmer on its own. Yes, I agree. There's much gold to be mined in poetry and things poetic. Well, next to last, for the milk. Frothed and poured into my morning coffee, and the milkman who delivered it, bottled and cold to the grocery store, and the one who placed it on the shelf, and the other who checked it out with a smile. For the dairy farmer who raised and milked the soft and white and brindled cows, the cows that gave it to the farmer's pail, the pastures of grass and clover that fed the cows, and the barn that sheltered them, for the rain and sun that helped the pastures grow and green, the clouds that gave the rain, and the sky that held them up, and the earth that gave the fertile soil for the dream and streams of milk to even begin. Thank you. And last for now, friends, in with the good air. In with the good air, with the good earth, with the good self, with this remarkably good life, this gift of being alive, of being awake to the world around and inside, to all the goodness and lightness of this world, despite its sadness, darkness, to all the possibilities for living each day in states of greaterness, in states of gratefulness. Thank you again so much for taking the time and space, for leaning in, listening and feeling in, for sharing these broadcasts with your friends and others, and for those sending donations in appreciation for a particular program or for all the energy I invest as a very joyful labor of love, creating and presenting these free to all weekly shows. Let me know if you have a suggestion for a future theme. I would welcome that. My email is colin@thepoetorialist.com. I'd also like to know what your experience was of this show on our fortunes. How and why did it resonate with you? And I hope that it did. If you are making a contribution, there's Venmo to Fivefold, Fivefold at pipeline.com, or PayPal to me at the same address, or by regular mail to P.O. Box 1032, Westerly, Rhode Island, 02891, or through my site, thepoetorialist.com, in the Donate tab. Patrons can, yes, now and again, host or sponsor me as a working poet in residence in a given place in the world for a given time, in a given season, to create a new flight of poetic art and dedicate it to them. Email me to explore. Meanwhile, you can hear all the broadcasts online on YouTube on the Floating Poetry playlist. I hope you'll lean in, and soon again. Until then, dear listeners, may your days be filled with much good fortune, good karma, a wealth of beautiful experiences, ones that enrich your inner beings and outer living, and to appreciating every way, large to small, the universe smiling on you. And for those celebrating the Thanksgiving holiday happening here in the States tomorrow, a toast to the favor of your gathering and feasting. And then again, maybe every day can be a Thanksgiving, a feast of life. Goodbye for now, and good spirits.